The Winnipeg Jets have been struggling mightily this season. The most common questions and statements I see out of Jets Nation is, what line combinations should we use? How is the coach deploying his lines? Are these lines actually effective? Are the Winnipeg Jets actually this bad? Because they look really good on paper. We're going to arm you with all the right information as to what's going on in the Winnipeg Jets land when it comes to their line combinations and defensive pairings. And spoiler alert, they're not very good. And speaking of the right combinations, don't forget that this channel is sponsored by BetUS. Make your correct combination by gambling on sports and on the NHL using code HGS to get a 125% deposit bonus for first-time players in Canada or the US. It's open to both countries and fans of this channel. Go down below, smash the link, or head to betus.com and use code HGS for Hot Garbage Sports to make your best combination, your best ticket, and take home some big money. I use it myself. Make sure you gamble responsibly and that you're over the age of majority in your state or province. So let's put it to bed. Who is the best line for the Winnipeg Jets? It is Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, and Cole Perfetti. And I do not say that willy-nilly off the top of my head. I have statistics to back it up. The second best line for the Winnipeg Jets is Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, and Evgeny Svechnikov. So those of you that are major Svechnikov supporters, you have a point, but he's not in the same league as Cole Perfetti, and we've been saying that since the season started. We go ahead and we find those stats by heading to moneypuck.com. The link is down below. These advanced analytics allow us to rank goals, which is the most important thing in hockey. There's two statistics you have to look at when you're trying to determine viability of players, lines, and teams, and it's goals for versus expected goals for. Well, I mean, it's really just goals for, because expected doesn't matter once you've actually already scored, and shots towards the net, called Corsi, because the more shots you get towards the net, the more chances you have to score. And then we can break all those down into crazy categories like high danger chances and that. But today we're just going to stick with goals and Corsi. It's easy. It's simple. Shots at the net, goals that go in. That's how we rank effectiveness. It's a simple game, right? So we have these ranked by minutes. These are all the Jets lines that have played over 100 minutes, and we're rounding up here for Ehlers, Copp, and Stastny at the bottom. So the line that's played the most amount of minutes for the Winnipeg Jets is Svechnikov, Dubois, and Connor at 222. Guess what? They have 61% of goal percentage. That means for every goal they score, they are positive against goals against. A 50-50 percentage is bad. That means you're even for every goal you score, you let a goal in. And if you're below 50%, that means for every goal you score, you're letting more goals in. So 50% is the 1-to-1 ratio. Above it is good. Below it is bad. And you can see at 61%, they're a very effective line. They have 3.78 goals for and 2.43 goals against per 60 minutes. That's okay. This is a good amount of goals for, but this isn't a great goals against. That's why it's highlighted in light blue here. It's not ideal. You actually want to go ahead and you want to see dark blue. Dark blue is the number you want on Money Puck, but they aren't our most effective line. If we sort this by goal percentage, our most effective line is Connor, Dubois, and Perfetti. And that's very clear because look at their goals against. It's only 0.81. That's elite numbers. They are one of the most defensively responsible lines in the NHL, and they have 2.44 goals for. Look, great defense creates good offense. And I've said it on this channel since the beginning. We've talked about the coaches. Paul Maurice, his firing, quitting, whatever you want to call it, he didn't identify that Cole Perfetti was a top line, top six at least NHL player. He was going to let him ride the pine all year. Cole Perfetti is clearly the superior option to Evgeny Svechnikov on this line. Does Svechnikov cause more chances for Dubois and Connor? Absolutely. But Perfetti is an intelligent player. And when Connor, Dubois, and Perfetti play together, the chemistry is amazing and they play so defensively sound in their zone. That's because you have a lot of big brain players making the best plays in hockey right there. Now, some of you might be saying, look, Kyle Connor is our best player and he drives the line. I've heard this. Kyle Connor can drive a line, and I actually disagree. Kyle Connor does not drive the line. Pierre-Luc Dubois drives this line. Pierre-Luc Dubois, when you put him with any player on the Winnipeg Jets, that line automatically takes a step up both in the goals against category and the goals for category because Dubois is our best forward right now. Kyle Connor is a great scorer. He's an elite NHL winger, but wingers hardly and rarely ever carry lines in the NHL. Even the elite ones like the Great Eight, it's a stretch at that point. You still need a really good centerman to drive the middle of that line to make someone like that effective. Look, There are elite wingers in the NHL that you want on your team. You want to have it. I'm not making an argument against wingers, but I'm just saying Pierre-Luc Dubois is the right player for the Winnipeg Jets to bolster a line. It isn't necessarily Kyle Connor. And you know why I say that? Because all you have to do is look at number 4 here of Connor, Scheifele, and Wheeler. And when Connor joins that line, they get a really good goals for. 4.34 is amazing. But they have a problem defensively. 4.34. They're exactly 50%. Every time they score, a goal goes in against them. That is not an effective line. That's a net neutral line, and net neutral lines do not win hockey games. We go back to our 100 minutes and we sort by goals against per 60 minutes. Connor, Scheifele, Wheeler, the worst for goals against per 60 minutes. Stastny, Scheifele, Wheeler, the second worst for goals against in 60 minutes. Neither of these lines positive. And then you take a look at Svechnikov, Dubois, and Connor, the third worst. But then you go back down to what I think is our second best line, which is Ehlers, Copp, and Stastny. They finally creep in positive, and Ehlers, Scheifele, and Copp work out to be net neutral, which does lead some credit to the fact that wherever Blake Wheeler ends up playing, the defense seems to fall down quite significantly, with Mark Scheifele being close behind him as number 2. Now you might be wondering, where's our depth in that lineup? There was really only 2 lines going on there. It's our top 6. Well, when you sort by 100 minutes, which should be fine at this point in the game, you actually don't see Adam Lowry or the 4th line anywhere because neither coach has played them more than 100 minutes on a single line. That's how many times the combination is being changed and turned over. I mean, really everything below line 11 is kind of a Lowry line when you take a look at over here on the left side. And when you look at the goals percentage, the spread isn't that great. And when you look at goals for, it's just single goals, like 1 or 2 here or there. And that's not what elite teams are doing. That's not what the Wild are doing. That's not what the Avs are doing. That's not even what the Nashville Predators are doing. I understand injuries and those types of things, but the Jets have had so many blender lines in the bottom 6 because there's just no talent down there. End of story. Adam Lowry is fine, and then it just falls off an absolute cliff because Kevin Cheveldayoff refuses to find depth. And for all the great noise he gets for drafting, he doesn't really get his players involved soon enough to be productive at the late game. He doesn't invest in them early so that when we get into messes like this, like we've been in for the last 2 years, we end up with guys like Dominic Toninato that are local heroes because everyone loves an everyman, but he's just not an NHL player in the bottom 6. Let's go ahead and talk about defensive pairings right now. And when we look at the defensive pairings, when we rank them by minutes, we can see our number 1 pairing for minutes is Pionk and Dillon. And that's no surprise because go ahead and look at the right-hand columns for goals for per 60 minutes, goals against. They're one of the only positive line combinations out there. And this is a 3-4 pairing. This is not a 1-2 pairing. So the 3-4 pairing is doing somewhat okay. But when you look down one below it, our number 1 pairing, Morrissey and Schmidt, it is a problem. The goals percentage is 43%. They get 2.07 goals for and 2.72 goals against. That is nasty and ugly. Morrissey and DeMello are no better. Dylan DeMello is not a top line or a top 4 defender. Hard stop. Stanley and DeMello at number 4, however, are very effective. They're a very effective 5-6 pairing defenseman. They produce more goals for than goals against in their limited amount of minutes when they are avoiding the league's top 6 in terms of forward groups. So what does that say? That says Dylan DeMello is a 5-6 elite defenseman. Logan Stanley can survive when he's playing with Dylan DeMello in a 5-6 role. That says Morrissey and Schmidt cannot carry a top pairing role and likely even struggle in a 3-4 role. There needs to be a true number 1 defenseman playing with either of those guys because neither of them have shown the capability of being a true number 1 defenseman, a la Morgan Riley, a Dougie Hamilton, a Charlie McAvoy, or a Cale Makar. It's just not possible. Dillon and Pionk are serviceable 3-4 defensemen. That's exactly what you want, but you're paying a lot of money for that 3-4 defensive pairing. We know that we don't have a number 1 defenseman. We don't have a number 2 defenseman. We have a serviceable 3-4. We have a serviceable 5-6. We have an okay line 1 in Connor, Dubois, and Perfetti. But when you compare that against the other NHL's line 1s, they do not compare, but they are our line 1. Our line 2 is nowhere to be found. Like when you add Scheifele and Wheeler into line 2, they just do not stack up in the top 6 against the rest of the NHL right now, even though they're a point per game player because of all the defensive woes that they struggle with. We have no line 3, no line 4, and we have an excellent goaltender. His goals above average are awesome. He's the top 10 in the NHL this year. This is not on Connor Hellebuyck. I've been saying it since this channel started. So how are you supposed to win and get into the playoffs when you have one okay line that technically your number one line is actually a number two, and that's Dubois, Connor, and Perfetti. I hope they grow into a number one line. They're all young enough that it should. You don't really have a number two line. Your depth at 3-4 is terrible. You have no number one, no number two defenseman. You have an okay bottom four, and you have an elite goaltender. It means you missed the playoffs. And you have Kevin Cheveldayoff before the Stars game spouting off crap about that Andrew Copp is his own rental. He's probably not going to move a player. He didn't move Matthew Perreault. He didn't move Toby Enstrom. He doesn't move guys before their contracts end up. He lets them walk away in free agency. And people are going to sit here and wonder, what are we going to do next year? Because Kevin Cheveldayoff's confidence in this team is high enough that he is likely going to go into next year with very minimal retooling. So where does our line one come from? Well, it comes from the Dubois line taking a step forward next year. Where's our line two come from? Pray to God that Mark Scheifele and Blake Wheeler learn to play defense. That's not a sound strategy, but that's the only strategy we're going to have. Where's our line three and line four come from? Well, I don't see any depth in the system that's going to replace the bottom six right now and make it all of a sudden hyper productive. Do you? Let me know down below in the comments. Where's our number one defender going to come from? Well, not from anywhere. Josh Morrissey is likely peaked. This is about as good as he's going to get. He might get a little better, but we've seen it now. Nate Schmidt is 30 years old. This is where he's going to be. Pionk and Dillon are where they're going to be. And this team is butted up against the cap, folks. They're against the cap. So they're not going to make a move. They have a general manager that's being pig-headed and not recognizing any of this. Everything that I just showed you with advanced stats, most of you can see with your eye and have been commenting all over social media about it, and you're correct. My coach's eye tells me that this is correct. So why are the people being paid $1 million a year to put this team together, or millions of dollars a year to play this game, unable to put it together? I actually don't know. I have no idea, but this team does not deserve to be in the playoffs. This is not a chemistry problem. This is a talent problem. At the end of the day, it's a talent problem, whether or not we want to admit it or not. Go through moneypuck.com. I'm going to shorten up the video here by telling you, if you take a look at Nashville, Colorado, if you go ahead and take a look at Minnesota, all of those teams have a hyper-productive three-line pairings, and they have a hyper-productive defenseman. Even if you don't like the names, even if you go, who does Nashville have outside of Philip Forsberg and Roman Josi? Actually, I have no idea. It feels like smoke and mirrors, but it's not, because all of their top 9 forwards and their top 4 defensemen are producing, and they have an elite goalie. And it does not matter who you think the name is, the team produces. The Minnesota Wild are the same boat. The St. Louis Blues are smoke and mirrors. I don't care what position they are in the NHL. Even their advanced stats state they're smoke and mirrors. They ain't going anywhere. They have the opposite problem of the Jets. The Jets are doing exactly what they should do. The Blues, way overperforming. They're going to come back down to earth when it comes to the playoff time. They shouldn't make more than a round. Look, the Winnipeg Jets do not have a future here with this group. And if the general manager isn't going to do anything about it, I guess we can just all sit back in our chairs, cross our fingers, and hope that it works out. Right? Like, please let our favorite players work out. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, check out a couple of my other Jets videos and take a look at my NHL rankings for the playoffs here. Who is number one for me? I'll spoil it for you. It's not the Colorado Avalanche. Everyone's got the Avs. I got the Avs at 6. So take a look at this video. It's got some well-documented information as to who the top 5 is, and maybe that'll help you when you join BetUS, thanks to Hot Garbage Sports, and smash a bet on your Stanley Cup favorite. Hey, I know who I got in there. You let me know who you got in there. Have a good one, guys.